Hello and welcome to Clipping In. It's Tuesday, the 21st of October, and today I'm out in the drizzle for a few hours, and this looks like the perfect opportunity to show you the second winter bike. Oh yes. Meet the Gios Compact Pro 1998. My dad's favourite bike. He had others, but this one was always his Sunday best and long ride favourite. He had a short time of converting it as into a time trial bike with an ergo stem, but then he got a Cannondale that was better suited to that job. So this went back to being the Sunday best road bike. For me, because there was quite a difference in our height, we used to take frame sizes maybe 4 or 5 centimetres apart. So for me, it's a small frame. You can see that for a classic bike, there's quite a lot of seat posts there. And then what I did, I bought a quill to A-head converter and fitted an A-head stem. That's 130mm, and I flipped it so it's pointing up, because otherwise the front end would be far too low for me. But even as it is, I've ridden it I've done a 100-miler on it, and that was on the channel, and that was when I was trying to keep it as original as possible. So I had a 5339 chain set with a 27 on the back. So some of the longer rides in the Dales, when you hit a big hill with 70 miles in your legs, that was a bit of a toil. But now, sensibly, I've conceded, and it's got a 5034. It's put together really out of the parts box, you know, what I call as spares and bits and pieces left over from other bikes. Originally, he bought it, it was 9-speed Ultegra. He got it with Mavic helium wheels, those superb late 90s red hub, red rim, super light climbing wheels, and he paid 1,500 in '98. Which was a fair amount at the time, still a fair amount now, but compared to what nicely spec'd out bikes cost today, that's nothing. As I say, a lot of stock boxing going on there. That's a Tiagra 9-speed lever from 2006. The Ultegra is from 2012. But you know, it works. The good thing about it, I've not had to spend much to get this back on the road. The forks, you might have spotted by now, are not original. He had a pretty heavy duty fall in 2007 that put him in hospital, and bent the original Gios forks completely out of shape. And rather than go to a frame builder and try and get them straightened, he went instead and bought some chromed Reynolds 531 from, I'm pretty sure it was Ellis Briggs. And they did a nice job. It's a good curved chromed steel fork, and it still has all that magic of steel, you know, that sprung compliance that other materials just don't have when it comes to fork feedback. Running it with 23mm gator skins, you know, one of the downsides of these classic Italian geometries is that you don't have clearance for massive tyres. So I've had to be a little bit creative with the snips and cable ties to get mud guards in, and 23 is about the limit. Without guards I could probably squeeze 25s. I have done on my Gios, but on this one with guards, no, 23s. But once you get used to them, they're absolutely fine. You know, to think that I rode tens of thousands of miles on 23s, and never once moaned about the road conditions, honest. when I finally came back to cycling in 2022 after 7 years of injuries and health problems, one of the first things I did was to take this bike, strip it down, and then rebuild it from stock box. I just thought it'd be nice because there are so many memories tied up with this bike. I wanted to get it back out on the road as a rideable machine, and it is. So from a sentimentality point of view, it ticks some decent boxes for me. But it's also good from a practicality point of view because it's a bike that's perfectly serviceable, perfectly rideable, and it's bought and paid for. And being 9-speed, the consumables are about as cheap as you can get. So it doesn't cost much to keep it on the road either. As well as being an opportunity to showcase Winter Bike 2 this rainy morning, also gives me a chance to test this new jersey. I'll focus just, if you look on the shoulder, if the camera will focus there, this BioRacer Tempest material is remarkably water resistant. I deliberately today, I looked at the forecast and I thought, right, I'm not straying too far from home, I'm not bringing a hard shell. See how this copes. Hello, I'm wearing my editing hat. It seems that 1 or 2 clips that I recorded out on the road have gone missing. That's one of the perils of, you know, trying to record long passages in the rain and slippery conditions. But never mind, I'm here to fill in. One of the points that I was making is that on recent videos where I've been talking about riding in the rain, riding in foul weather, riding through the winter, there have been comments from separate commenters saying the same kind of thing. And it's that we don't avoid riding in the rain because it's unpleasant or because it's unsafe or for health reasons. We do it because it's not very kind to our expensive bikes. It accelerates the wear and tear on the drivetrain, the bottom bracket and other parts, and it trashes our expensive bikes far quicker. And so you'll see that it's an argument from economics rather than anything else. It's a finance argument, and I think in many respects that's a bit sad because it's almost a self-inflicted condition. You're spending all this money on a superbike, and then you have to start worrying about whether the conditions are suitable for you to ride that superbike, and if they're not, you end up on the indoor trainer instead, when you might really want to go outside. You know, if there are enough things that can keep us inside or you know, keep us off the bike in life, be it everything from work to family commitments to caring for children or relatives. You know, under those conditions, you have to, when you finally manage to clear the decks and you think, right, today I've got 4 hours, today I've got 5 hours, and it's raining, and you say, oh, I can't go out. This will cause accelerated wear and tear on my superbike. Oh, well, I'll stay inside anyway. And as I say, I just think that's a little bit sad because it's a case of, you know, you break the bank to buy this superbike, but then you can't afford the running costs. But that's part of the deal. And really, you know, the whole reason for the old division between training bike and best bike was so that your training bike would have a cheaper group set, cheaper parts on there, and you could expose that to all the bad weather. And then when it was time for performance critical rides, that's when you'd get the best bike out. Essentially what anyone wants a best bike for is to translate your aerobic power, your watts, your fitness, to translate that into the maximum possible speed on performance day. When you're training or when you're doing, you know, ordinary rides, you don't need that maximum translation factor. You're going out there, you're putting effort, you know. I mean, it's a cliche, but training is intensity, duration, frequency, plus nutrition and rest stroke recovery. That's what it all boils down to. And speed doesn't enter the picture. Speed only enters the picture on race day when you've got a number on your back. Now, sure, a lot of people now don't race, but I think that breaking that mindset of performance day being every time you throw your leg over a bike, it tends towards you never want to downgrade. If you've bought this super bike, then that's the only bike you want to ride, because anything else will slow you down. And I'm guessing, but I'm thinking that's what's behind the mentality of using the best bike all the time and then getting worried that you're wearing through the running gear quicker by taking it out on bad days. Because, you know, looking at the prices of some super bikes, they're pushing 10,000. In many cases, they're more than 10,000. So again, if you've got the money to pay 8 to 10,000 for a super bike, it makes sense to put 1,500 or 2,000 on one side and get a really, really good training bike. Something that, sure, it won't translate into the same level of speed for effort, but it's more than good enough to do all the rides that you want to do and all the training that you want to do. And then when you dig out the maximum super bike, the performance machine, it'll translate into maximum speed for your individual effort. It might be something of a simplification, but borrowing a phrase from the camera world, the best bike is the one that you've got now, the one that you can afford, and the one that you can afford to run. Because very few winter bikes or cheap bikes, or however you want to refer to them, very few of them will stop you getting out, doing the rides in the big country and getting that massive feel-good factor. As I said about my titanium Dolan winter bike, it's about 1.2 miles an hour on average slower than my summer bikes. We're just coming through Clifton Village. I don't know if any of you were affected yesterday, Monday the 20th, by the big Amazon Web Service outage. It took down so many sites, including Strava. I had 3 or 4 goes uploading an activity to Strava. Nope. And even this morning it hasn't come through, so it's lost in the ether. I tried replying to a couple of comments as well. Nope. What a mystery. I thought at first it was part of the Cold War between Garmin and Strava. But then I found that Strava had dropped their lawsuit. Expect more, because Strava's going on an IPO. They're opening out to the market, so there might be a few changes there. But taking on Garmin, I couldn't figure that one out. But no, yesterday it was Amazon to blame. Took a few banking sites down as well, Snapchat, whatever that is, and oh yeah, Duolingo. There's me trying to learn Italian and it freezes. Mi chiamo Gordon, voglio bere, and that was it. We'll never know what I wanted to drink now. Coming into Drigg Crossroads, probably get stopped by the lights and then a left. This is the main A58, known in these parts as Whitehall Road. And the big city skyline there. Every time I look, there's more construction cranes. Wow. Brightening up a bit now. Looks like I'm back to winner with this choice of jersey, rather than going hard shell, on off, on off. I think it was about 8C this morning, but it's warmer than that now. I think the forecast was showing 11ish for this time. Coming up into Tong Village now, second time for me. Over to my right, below Pudsey, there's a place, I think it's called Full Neck, and there's a museum devoted to Moravians in the area. I don't know the opening hours or anything like that, but it might be an interesting one to visit on a dry day when I'm not going far, to have a look around. I don't know that much about the Moravians from a theological point of view. I do know that roughly where I sign off the Pennine rides, I pass an 18th century Moravian church, and in the what they used to call colony around there was born the reservoir king of the 19th century, the man who was behind some enormous civil engineering projects. He was the chief designer and supervising engineer architect for the great chain of reservoirs in Londondale and many, many others. So maybe I'll have a little look over at below Pudsey. One for the autumn winter ride projects list. Now, what was I saying about the weather? Back to heavy shower again. But never mind, I will have somewhere in the low 50s when I get back. I'm just short of 50 now, and this bike's done really well actually. I can tell the front end's a little bit lower than on my other bikes, but for this kind of distance, that's not a problem. Just got to watch. There's been a tractor out of these fields. You've got to be careful on stuff like that. Don't brake. That's one golden rule. Don't brake. You might catch a glimpse or glance of the Pennines. We're never too far away from the backbone of England. So there we have it, a good re-debut for the little Gios for autumn winter 25. I think the titanium Dolan would be the bike for the bigger outings, the sort of 4-5 hours plus, but this can do lots of the in-between stuff and do it with aplomb. Right, that's all for this edition of Clipping In. See you very soon back out on the Yorkshire roads. Bye bye.